Good morning, everybody. Look, for today's lesson in AP English 3, Language and Composition, what we're going to do, you're going to tell us the purpose of the lesson today. I'm going to show you this video. It is a very famous speech given by Denzel Washington at a college graduation. We're going to watch this. It's about 4 minutes, and then again, be thinking about what the purpose of this lesson would be today.
College. I had a 1.7 grade point average. I hope none of you can relate. I had a 1.7 grade point average. I was sitting in my mother's beauty shop. They still call it beauty shop now? What they call it now? Yeah, I was sitting in the beauty parlor. I was sitting in my mother's beauty parlor, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I see behind me this woman under the dryer. And every time she looked up, every time I looked up, she was looking at me, just looking me in the eye. And I didn't know who she was, and I said, she said, "Somebody give me a pen. Give me a pen." So I have a prophecy. March 27, 1975. She said, "Boy, you are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people." Now, mind you, I was flunked out of college. I'm thinking about joining the army. I didn't know what I was going to do, and she's telling me I'm going to travel the world and speak to millions of people. Well, I have traveled the world, and I have spoke to millions of people. But that's not the most important thing, the success that I had. The most important thing is that what she taught me and what she told me that day has stayed with me since. I've been protected. I've been directed. I've been corrected. You have to work at it every day. You have to plan every day. You heard the saying, we don't plan to fail, we fail to plan. Hard work works. Working really hard is what successful people aspire to make a difference.
Alright, so based on the film that you've just watched, what do you think the purpose of today's lesson will be? What's the purpose of today's lesson going to be? Based on what we've been covering in class and the essays that you've been writing, and what will the purpose be?
Rhetorical strategies.
There are a lot of rhetorical strategies in every single speech. And this one, of course, you've already seen plenty, I'm sure. Here's your formal standards from the state of Louisiana. You're going to determine an author's purpose in a text in which the rhetoric is considered particularly effective. You're going to analyze how style and content, these rhetorical strategies, contribute to the power, persuasiveness, or the beauty of a text. In doing so, you can analyze rhetorical strategies without citing evidence as well. Now, put simply, this is exactly the same as the rhetorical analysis essay for your AP exam, where you have to identify what in the world is the author's purpose, and then how does he or she achieve it. So first, here's a transcript of the speech that you just watched. Go through it really quickly, please. It is split notes with the speech on the left and an empty space on the right. And please note any rhetorical strategies that you see, keeping in mind that we're going to determine what in the world his purpose is. And that's what Trinity said. He's trying to tell people definitely to not give up. So that's his purpose. How in the world does he achieve it? Look, let me show you mine as I'm going down. I'm making super tiny notes about what strategy I see in the margin as I see it, just so you can have a student-led discussion on this information. Let's go ahead and start discussing this. Even if you're not finished all the way with your analyzation of the speech, you are far enough to be able to contribute to our conversation. Okay, so I very much would like for you to lead a discussion about the rhetorical strategies that you see in here. Like, it's impossible to not watch this and not understand his purpose, like, don't give up, period. So he proves this in numerous ways. So how does he do it?
He uses informality too, like when he talks about the beauty shop, he goes, what they call it now, like he's using improper grammar to make it more informal, to like relate to him.
Because he's a movie star and a billionaire, so why do we care what he says? Yeah, that's definitely one way that he does that. Right, what else?
He also kind of reaches out to like each person's want for intelligence, because when he's talking about the IQ test, everybody kind of wants a high IQ because it makes you kind of smarter. So he said to like act like the people that went outside the box that passed IQ.
Good, and that's not a formal rhetorical strategy, but there's no reason you can't use that in your formal essay for the AP people. Like, that's clearly something that he's doing to reach people. Okay, what else do we see?
An anecdote.
An anecdote? What do you mean?
Like in the beginning, he used his short story about the lady in the beauty shop that told him he was going to talk to a million people.
So that's the same thing Catherine talked about, the lady in the beauty shop. So know that anytime you can discuss any two different strategies exactly like that, like with the informality and the beauty shop anecdote, to discuss them together, you're going to get more points on your writing.
Super short sentences where he says, fail big, that's right, fail big. So it's just kind of stressing his point, which actually that's not necessarily something everybody thinks about, to
Right.
fail big. So it's kind of like, boom, punch in the chest, like, fail big. What, you know.
Yeah, so it's also
Ironic.
it's also ironic. It's also an oxymoron. And don't forget the super simple repetition, like, of that super short sentence, and you just said it, feel big, and then whatever you said in the between there, and then you said feel big again right after that. So that's even three things you can talk about.
Where he
Nice.
says text, tweet, rhetorical world, is that kind of also a rhetorical strategy?
Yes, and what would you call it?
Alliteration.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank
Nice. It's also alliteration. It's also informality. It's just pretty fun. Like, if anybody's dozing off trying to... Okay, for the next portion of the lesson, you have three things in front of you. The first thing is you have the actual 2017 prompt for the rhetorical analysis language test. You also have this graphic organizer that we've used before that has 4 quadrants, because we're going to divide this essay into 4 parts, so you can attack it linearly if you would like to, linearly. The next thing you have, this is the actual AP rubric that they're going to use to score you, and you will notice that I have marked the scores of 8, 7, 6, and 5, because we're not really interested in anything other than that. Now, we're going to read this prompt together, make sure we know what we're doing. And then I want you to be thinking ahead of time. We're going to actually predict a goal of a score that you think you can make and are going to plan to make even before you start discussing more writing, based on what the prompt is. So let's look at the actual essay. Okay, again, this is the real one from 2017. When we get done with this, I have the actual essays that your peers wrote in the real free response booklets, the pink booklets that I'm going to show you. And ultimately, when you're done, you're going to be able to measure what they wrote, and you're going to look at what you wrote. These are the people that you know in the class ahead of you, and compare it to yours, and you're going to immediately know where you stand, as long as we time this accurately. And I think you'll find it very encouraging. Okay, so let's get started. Here's the actual prompt. Let's take a look at it. The passage below is the opening to a speech made in 1960 by American journalist and politician Claire Booth Lucci to journalists at the Women's National Press Club. In this speech, Lucci went on to criticize the tendency of the American press to sacrifice journalistic integrity in favor of the perceived public demand for sensationalist stories. Read the passage carefully, and this is how they all sound, you know, at the end. That is all of your background information that you definitely need to utilize when you make your response. And then here's the standard. Read the passage carefully in a well-developed essay. Analyze how, and it is interesting that they have italicized how in this prompt, how Lucci uses this introduction to prepare the audience for her message, and then support your analysis of her rhetoric with specific references to the text. And remember, you can always paraphrase instead of using direct quotations. Okay. The task is identical to our purpose for the day. What is the author's purpose? And then how does she or he achieve it? This one's different, notice, because it says how the author uses this introduction to prepare the audience for her speech. So you can see that's about the only different thing they can give you for these essays is a slightly different twist on like how they're going to use what they're going to give you. Okay, you're divided into groups of 3 or 4. Please read through this. Make your notes on either your graphic organizer for section 1, 2, 3, and 4, or if you want to, you definitely can just make your notations on the text itself, either one, whichever one that you're comfortable with in your groups, and then we'll discuss this in a few minutes. Do you want to pick your groups of what portion of the essay you'd like?
We got one.
They got one.
We got 4.
4, 3, and you are the lucky recipients of 2. Okay, definitely read it independently. Don't try to attack your section without reading the whole text first. Okay, good luck.
Okay, right here it talks, it says, to describe the lives of men and women, big and small, close at hand or thousands of miles away, familiar in their behavior or unfamiliar in their idiosyncrasies. But we're not exactly sure what to call that. We know it's like strategy just because
Big and small, close at hand.
and like how it keeps doing that or that or
Big
that.
and small, close. Okay, it's a lot of different things all together. So what do you see? It's not one thing. It's a bunch of things he does, she does, all at once. Honestly.
I know that there's comparison. There is comparison close at hand, 1,000 miles away.
Yes,
Millions
that's
in behavior or
comparison.
unfamiliar in their idiocracies.
Okay. What else?
And then, big and small.
What's big and small?
No, it's big and small. It's not royal, so it's going to be a bigger
Contrast. So look, that's really simple. So it's, look at the M dash, and M dash is in our sentence too. So this person also uses syntax, even though it's a speech. Question that when she's talking, she's pausing at these marks of punctuation, and then you've already identified right there with the big and small, there's a contrast, right immediately after that is a comparison, and then what else in here?
We also have the idiosyncrasy, strong diction.
Yeah. So see, any of these things that you can discuss together, that's where the money is, that's what you want, and that's right where you are. You don't have to know exactly what someone's called. Good job.
That's he's just that's contradiction.
She's saying ask, but she's not really saying don't do it.
I've seen the repetition and also personal. Like he puts himself.
I hope it's the informality too. Wait, what did you say?
Okay, so let's stop and report the results that you have on your section. And so, section 1, please begin. And what rhetorical strategies have you found?
I really don't know like to form a name for it.
Okay.
The way that she was like, in the first sentence she says, I'm happy and flattered to be a guest of honor on this always exciting and challenging occasion. But then she go on to say she less happy and more challenged than you could ever know and all this stuff.
Okay, so what can we call that? Or what can we say about it? You don't have to name it.
It's like it's kind of ironic that it's supposed to be like a happy occasion and exciting, but she like it's not her what she thought it was like. Oh my but it's like, okay, I gotta know. But she was talking about how it said you have asked me to tell you what is wrong with you, and that's ironic because why would you need somebody else to tell you what you're doing wrong, and you like the American press, so you should.
Okay, look, so for real, with like 30 more seconds of think time, you can really nail that because you're on exactly what she's doing. She's like, hey, I'm happy, I'm flattered, I'm the guest of honor, y'all look great, this is a wonderful, happy occasion. And then immediately after that, you've picked up on it where she's like, but this is not going to go well for you. You've invited me here to say wonderful things, but I'm fixing to tell you something terrible.
It's like a contradiction.
Yeah, it's definitely a contradiction. You can call it a contradiction. You can call it a contrast. You can call it polarity. You can call it juxtaposition. You can call it, honestly, it doesn't matter what you call it. But basically, they've invited her for one thing, and she's fixing to just lay it out to them that it's something different. Okay, cool. It's a very good analysis of the beginning. Section 2.
We had section 2, and we saw a lot of different things, but some of them are kind of a little more complex, like in lines 15 and 16. She says the delicate art of giving an audience trouble, and
She says the delicate art of giving an audience hell is always one best left to the Billy Grahams and the Bishop Sheens. Go ahead.
okay, that's kind of complex because she's using irony and saying that something bad is delicate and it's an art. But she's also mentioning a famous person there and trying to say she's not trying to be better than them, but she needs to explain her thoughts. Also, holistically, we saw that she's also a journalist, but she's speaking to them as if she's not. She's even a journalist in the organization that she's about to tell them all the things that they do wrong. So that's interesting.
Just repeating herself to emphasize her point. And then on the second half of our section, she says big and small, close at hand or thousands of miles away, familiar in their behavior or unfamiliar in their idiosyncrasies. Right here at the beginning, big and small, she's using a contrast, and then she goes into a comparison with close at hand or thousands of miles away, and then she does another comparison with familiar in their behavior or unfamiliar in their idiosyncrasies. And then she also uses M dashes in this, and then idiosyncrasies would be diction too. So right here, just one sentence, she uses 4 different rhetorical strategies. So.
Nice. And group 4?
The personal pronoun of I, to basically show that it's not just directed towards them. It's basically, it's personal. It basically forms camaraderie with the crowd. And also,
Everything that she's saying is not nice by far. And she's also, although she's telling them off, essentially, pretty much, she's also saying this is me too. Yeah, very cool.
and she repeats that many times. That way, if the audience missed it, they'll get it again.
All right, that's a complete analysis of this essay. We've talked about it together, so that's your crutch. So you definitely didn't have to tackle this all on your own. Now we're ready to start writing this formal essay. I'm going to time you and give you exactly 40 minutes. In the meantime, you have a rubric in front of you, which is the legit AP rubric with those scores circled that we want a 5 at minimum at this point in the year. Before you start writing your essay, I want you to please write a prediction or a goal at the top for what score you're going to want to make. And then you're going to have 40 minutes to actually write this essay. Questions?
You want it at the top of the rubric or at the top of the essay thing?
At the top of the essay thing. So you have 40 minutes to write this essay. And begin. Okay, in tomorrow's lesson, right when we start, you have your finished essay in front of you. This is the actual anchor paper from the College Board. It's got a 6 and an 8 score, and you're going to be able to compare that to what you've written. These also are the essays written by your peers. These are people you know who are current seniors, and you're also going to measure yourself by them. You're going to see how each individual student, whether it's from College Board or from the people you know, how they have delineated the author's purpose and how the author achieved it. Okay? Thank you. Have a beautiful day.